butterflies. So see you later. I'm gonna mute myself here, okay? I'm gonna mute myself here and I'm gonna be at Clubhouse, okay? Did you hear? Okay, great.
Lots of clicks. All right. Little music. Good morning, Janine. You want to come up?
Good morning.
All right.
Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Adriana.
Oh, you
Good
have
morning.
a better icon. I like your icon, Janine.
Oh, well, thank you.
I know. Can I use that one instead of the black heart? Is that maybe that's not inappropriate? Maybe that's inappropriate because it's black power. I don't know. How's that work? Does it have a
Yeah,
meaning at that level? Or am I reading into
just
it?
no, just in honor of Black History Month. Same thing.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll be ready to go in just a moment or two. Finish these last 1, 2 things.
Can you make me moderator, please? Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for all the help. Truly make this job much easier to have some help. All right. Today is going to be lesson 49. And it's Friday, February 18th. My goodness. It seems like this year is going fast and strangely slow at the same time. Huh. All right. Today's lesson is number 49. God's voice speak to me all through the day. Every single one of these words is important. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It's quite possible to listen to God's voice, which is the Holy Spirit, all through the day, without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your split mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God. Whether you are aware of this constant communication with God or not, it is the other part of your mind that represents your ego's thought system, that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is this part that represents your egoic mind that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain. The part that's listening to the voice for God is calm, always at rest, and wholly certain. The part of your split mind that is listening to the voice for God is really the only real part there is. The other part that represents your fearful egoic mind's thought system is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to your egoic mind. Try to identify with the part of your split mind where stillness and peace reign forever, which is the voice for God. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His Son. We will need at least 4 5-minute practice periods today, and more if possible. We will try actually to hear God's voice, reminding you of God and of your real, big S, self. We will approach this happiest and holiest of thoughts with confidence, knowing that in doing so, we're joining our will with the will of God. God wants you to hear God's voice. God gave the Holy Spirit to you to be heard. Listen in deep silence. Be very still and open your mind. Go past all the raucous shrieks, and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with God. Sink deep into the peace that waits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sights and sounds of this insane, egoic world of individuated perception. You do not live here in this insane world of individuated perception. We are trying to reach your real home, which is not your insane, egoic world of individuated perception. We are trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We are trying to reach God. Do not forget that today's idea is, what is that? Do not forget to repeat today's idea that God's voice speaks to me all through the day, very frequently. Do so with your eyes open when necessary, but closed when possible, and be sure to sit quietly and repeat the idea for today that God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day, whenever you can, closing your eyes on the world, realizing that you are inviting God's voice, the Holy Spirit, to talk to you, to speak to you. Okay. Thank you. I have this side piece of software on my computer, the part that plays the music, and it just kind of went all to hell. Let's see. Oh, there he is again. He woke up.
Welcome back, Lee.
It's good to be here. I got both sides of my mind here now. All right, here we go. Is it too loud? Maybe the music's a little too loud this morning.
No, seems
That's
okay.
good?
Yeah,
Excellent.
it seems
Thank
okay.
you. All right, I trust your ears more than mine for sure. The mind that perceives itself to be separate from its source, the mind of God, is split-minded. The goal of these workbooks lessons is to retrain your mind so that you can recover your ability to hear and follow your inner guide, which is the voice for God. In the world of perception, you perceive that there are two possible choices from which to choose. You believe that both are false and that the true are viable options. You believe that both the false and the true are viable options. These two possible choices are represented by opposite thought systems. One is the false, fear-based thought system of the ego. The other is the thought system for love and forgiveness that represents the truth. Your decision maker decides which thought system will control your private world of provisional reality. Your decision maker can vacillate between either fearful or loving thoughts, but only one thought system is followed at any given time. The advice from both thought systems are available throughout the day, yet we've been conditioned to hear only the voice for fear. This is because we have been indoctrinated into the idea that our ego is our true self, and therefore must know our best interest. This is not the case. Your ego does not know anything about truth with a capital T. The ego is a part of the split mind that has identified itself with the illusion of separation. It argues for the correctness of its belief in separation at the cost of your happiness. The ego claims that the fearful world of time and space is your reality, and your body is your home. Because of the fear that is generated by a thought system based on lack, limitation, and separation, the ego is always arguing for the correctness of its own survival plans. When you seek guidance within, it will be the voice of your ego that always responds first and loudest. Your ego must argue for the correctness of its judgments and why you are justified in responding to any situation in a fear-based manner. Your ego follows the rules of this fear-based planet. It believes that there are victims and victimizers. Therefore, you must attack first, or you will be attacked. Yet, if you silence the voice for fear, stop your ego's mind's chatter, and refuse to slip into judgment or argue for the rightness of your attack thoughts, you will hear the voice for God. The voice for God is calm, always at rest, and wholly certain. It can be certain because it comes from God. It knows the truth that God's Son sleeps, but must and will reawaken to the truth. The Holy Spirit knows the big picture. It understands that the purpose of this world of perception is merely to provide a safe play school for your fun and learning while you explore the process of reawakening to the truth of your spiritual magnificence. Because the ego is uncertain, frantic, and distraught, its voice appears loudest. This is only because the ego must argue for its rightness at the cost of your inner peace. You are retraining your mind so that you can go within. Move past the shouts of the ego and listen to the voice for God that resides deep within all minds that misperceive themselves to be separate from the mind of God. This inner voice knows this planet is not your home and that your destiny is the peace of God. Follow the voice of the Holy Spirit and it will take you home. The ego's frantic shouts will fade away as your decision maker decides to shift its allegiance from the ego's fear-based thought system to the thought system for truth, love, and forgiveness. All right. Why don't we do our lesson together? We'll have one under our belt, and you'll only have 3 more to do for the day. 4 per day means we want to kind of section it up so that we've got 1 in the late morning and 1 in the early afternoon and 1 before bed. So think now for a minute about when these might fit into your schedule, or set a reminder for yourself. Do whatever you've got to do so that you've got some little reminders throughout the day to remember that God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Start to take some nice deep breaths as we prepare for our little meditation here. We're going to take about 5 minutes, get this under our belt. We'll be right in line for 7 a.m. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. I invite you to straighten your spine. Gently pull your shoulders down and back. And if you can, gently close your eyes. We're going to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out for 5, and then hold the bottom of that as long as you feel comfortable. Start taking your breath in. Nice deep breath for 5 seconds and fill up those lungs. Hold it for me just a moment. And let it all out slowly so that it takes some time to empty your lungs all the way. Take a nice deep breath for 5, 3, 2. Hold it for a moment. Exhale with control. 5, 4, 3, 2. On your next inhale, take a deep breath, filling your belly completely. 5, 4, Hold on. And exhale with control. 5, 4. You can return to normal breathing. I invite you to bring your attention to where your body contacts the floor or chair beneath you. Observe your body rising with each inhale. Watch how your body falls with each exhale. God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day. To say anything is welcome. It's wonderful to see you all here. Hey, Jordan and Rosa, how are you guys doing? I hope you're having a great day. Janine and Adriana, you're the ladies that have the ability to talk. Is there anything you guys kind of got out of this?
I have a little story.
Oh, great.
I
Even
saw
better.
Adriana unmiked. Did you want to go ahead, Adriana?
No, my friend, it's, the mic is all yours. I want to hear you.
Um, Thank you. I have a standard poodle, And he is 14 years old. He'll be 15 years old this year. And he has arthritis and a chronic eye infection. So he's got his problems, but we love him so much. And
I bet.
but he needs grooming because you know how poodles, their fur grows like sheep, or that's not even considered fur, it's hair actually. So I've been seeing the same groomer for years, many years. At we have something called PetSmart, and you know, I really liked his groomer. Felt, you know, warm and fuzzy when I thought of her and saw her. And Leo loves her. So one day she was ill, and another groomer, I think it turned out it was the manager, ended up grooming him. And when she called me back, she informed me that they no longer wanted to have Leo come back to PetSmart. And I was really taken aback. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I mean, I knew it wasn't easy to groom him because of his arthritis. And I guess his level of cooperation isn't that great, you know, up on the table and everything. And I said, well, what do you mean you don't want him back? Well, we don't want him back at PetSmart. And it felt like a blow, like it felt personal. I was like, what do you mean? Well, you know, because of this and that, and explaining it. And I know it's about money. It probably can do 2 dogs to Leo, you know, so they just don't have the time to be patient with him. So since then, it's been some weeks, and my dog looks pretty bad. He looks like a little homeless dog. I do the best to brush him, and but as I thought about it, I just got angrier and angrier yesterday. I was, because I haven't been able to find another groomer. Um, the smaller groomers are saying they're not taking anybody because of COVID. And they're taking new clients. One had a waiting list. Some aren't answering or responding back. And it's very upsetting and frustrating to see my dog. You know, he's a proud dog, you know, even though he's a senior. he's he likes being groomed, and I could tell he's uncomfortable. So it just, this feeling built up in my chest. And I actually had the cell phone number of my groomer, so I just started this long, scathing text. You know, how could you do this? And we've known you for years, and you could have at least told me yourself, and on and on and on and on. It was a nice little long paragraph. And right before was about to hit send the text, something stopped me, and I just became still and just went within and allowed the ego to calm down. And just like the lesson says, you know, the ego will quiet down. You just have to wait. And I waited. And then another voice came up that, you know, that's not what you want to do. You know, that's not the loving thing to do. And then I just began to trust, knowing that the right opportunity will arise in the right situation, and I will find somebody or a solution to the problem. There's no need to attack. I recognized the attack in me, and it just quieted down and went away and into more loving thoughts. And it's so wonderful to be able to see when the mind is becoming split and make a decision to act in love instead of you know, let the ego have its way. And I thought about what it would cause in the groomer and how bad she would feel, and it probably was a corporate decision anyway from her manager. But yeah, it was yesterday, and it was felt good about it. So thank you for letting me share.
So did you shoot the bastard?
The dog or the groomer?
No, those two.
I was about to say that.
I'm just joking, of course.
I know.
I was assuming that the owner was a he, but it's not necessarily so. We're kind of blessed here in Raleigh because we've got a bunch of groomers, and we have been through several. We have 2 dogs, and one of them is hellacious to groom. We have never had a groomer, and we've had probably 5 or 6 over the years. that really enjoyed. They like the dog. They'll always say that, and he's a great dog. That's Moki, but he's not easy because he just doesn't like getting cut, especially close to his face or in the backside. The other one, our smaller dog, is 22 years old, and he doesn't mind at all. And it's really amazing how different they are. But we had to shop around. And Janine, I just hope that you do find someone, or you can say in a very nice way, is this a final decision? If it is, then I need to go somewhere else, and let the groomer that you like know that you have to move on. And it's sad, but you're sorry. That would be a nice, loving way of doing it, rather than expressing the feelings of your ego, because they don't mean anything and they don't help at all. That's my
No,
thought.
they forced me, Bob, to move on. Like I went on to book at a different PetSmart. You know, it's a big chain, and he was blocked on the website, so they forced me to not come back. So, but I had to. I know I had to go within and accept that decision, and I know the Holy Spirit will connect me with the right groomer, with someone else who will, because he's not easy either. He's got a thick coat, and with the arthritis, I'm sure it requires a lot of patience. But I know that the right solution is on its way, and I'm looking forward to him getting groomed soon.
This lesson is quite something. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Janine, because it is like a way of really getting in touch with the source instead of the ego. But this lesson, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It really requires silence from our part. Requires stillness, even if we are annoyed, right? So it's funny because I was trying to think something that some content in my life that could fit to this, and it seems there's none because I never shut up. Because my ego always has something to say. So it's weird to be in this like silence, right? I don't know
I'm
if
with
this
you with
happened.
that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can meditate, but I guess that the only it's funny because now that I'm thinking about this, my mind always requires some kind of guidance from outside in order to be at ease. There's only one time in my life where I could really just be still and not thinking. And it was wonderful. It was the first time when I began my exploration in my spiritual path. It was 2012. And I knew nothing about anything. I knew nothing about religion. I mean, I only knew what I was taught by the school and whatever in Catholicism, but it wasn't so much like uh, part of my life. So I really didn't know anything back in 2012, and I was working in Bogota, having this great job and great life. I was feeling like really fulfilling so many areas in my life, but I still have this like hole in this void in my heart, and I was feeling uncomfortable because I was feeling alone. And I was questioning myself, well, what happened? What is happening with you? You're doing everything like so great, and when you are alone, you're miserable. Why can't you have a partner? Why can't you like be with someone that really feels great to have a relationship with? I was really putting all my being in my job, and I was doing great, but I was feeling alone. And I visited my family in Cali, in my hometown, and a friend of mine started to tell me about her experience with angels. That was like the first time that she spoke to me about it. And she was talking about them like with so much joy, with so much like really thrill, the experiences that she was having. And I look at her while she was speaking to me, and I was saying like, oh my God, that's the kind of excitement that I'm looking for. That's amazing that she has this kind of experiences. And she just ignited this curiosity in me, and I thanked her to giving me that information, because if it wasn't her, the one who told me those kind of experiences with angels, I wouldn't believe it. But I believe her because she was my best friend, or she is one of my best friends. So I was thrilled to hear her, and I went back to Bogota, and I kept like my mind in this big question, like, what about that part of my life? And I started to really buy books, and I found a beautiful book from Osho that it's called Words of Fire. No, Fire, yeah, Words of Fire. It is all about Jesus and the analogy in other religions of Jesus, and how all of them speaks like one single, point at one single aspect of life, that it's love or what. I started to gather information, and then I got curious about meditation, and I was the only like reference that I had was Osho, because I was reading books from Osho. So I looked in internet, in Google, and I found this meditation from Osho. But he didn't speak that much. He just guided like the position where how people should sit, and he was just stating that like the position of the body, and then he just said a few words, and my mind just took off. And that was the very first time that I meditated. And in that meditation, for the first time, I didn't even realize that I stood still, without any guidance, and my mind really went into such a into such a deep thinking and peaceful and whatever. I could stay still like for 15 minutes for the first time. I never had that experience before, and being the first time when I came back into my body, if you want to say it like that, or when I finished my meditation, I looked the clock, and I thought I was like 10 minutes only. It didn't seem like that much time. So I guess that the only reference that I have in my experience of having this kind of stillness is that, because ever since I went in my spiritual process, and I found so many tools, and the only one that gave me this connection, this path to connect my mind into this great light, only light, is the Theta healing. But it has as well like this path in my mind. So this lesson has something special, because it really makes me wonder, have I ever been really still in silence? And I need to explore that more deeply, because this is building a muscle to be always aware of what we are really, and that goes beyond the body. The meditation always helps, but if you get stuck with some specific kind of doing it, you're missing all other experiences as well. I guess so. I don't know. I'm just saying this because it fits.
Janine gave a real good example, and there was a wise soul a few days ago that, gave us the precursor to this idea that God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And she said that she likes to use the word think and as an acronym. And this is probably what kind of Janine did. She followed her own advice whenever she, rather than hit send, she thought and she asked for a little guidance. And her acronym for think was T, is it true? Probably what she wrote in regards to the situation probably was true. Obviously, uh, PetSmart said they no longer wanted to see Leo. Is it helpful? Her sending that email, was that really going to be helpful? That's probably pretty questionable, especially if it was not asking for any suggestions, because it sounded like she had already maybe asked for that. So it probably wasn't too helpful. Was it insightful? Probably not. I mean, they knew what they were doing. Was it necessary? Probably not. Was it the K in think stood for, is it kind? And that would probably be a definitely a no. So if you looked at her criteria for think, true, helpful, insightful, necessary, kind, probably it would have scored at best maybe a 1 out of 5 as a thing that she should do. And then she decided not to send it. So she decided not to put that negative energy, which would have made her ego feel good about herself, but not probably in the long run. So it's interesting. And I don't know, Janine, if you use that thought process that you had mentioned of a few days ago, but whether you did or not, consciously, it sounded like you listened to that voice, that higher soul that it spoke to you and gave you that acronym a few days back to help you in this moment. And interesting lesson and an interesting example. The ego always argues for its rightness, which uh, a lot of times makes someone feel good for the moment, but in the long run, it doesn't bring us closer together. It increases the separation and doesn't leave us at inner peace. So thank you for that acronym of a few days ago, and also, for the story and the example that you use. I think kind of fits in with it.
I
Thank you.
like how you turned that acronym into a formula, and you had 1 out of 5 there. It only checks off 1 out of 5 of those. That's fantastic. Good job.
Thank you, Tom. You were in my head. I actually did use that. And the I is inspiring, but I like insightful too. I think there's probably a number of I words that can go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. I did. Thank you so much.
Sorry about the PetSmart experience. I'm sure you'll find something else. And
Yeah,
I
me
don't know.
too.
It must be really tough to give Leo a shower or a bath at home.
Oh, he'd look worse if I tried to do anything.
Oh, oh, well, standard poodles, that's a really long life for a standard poodle, isn't it? Don't they usually,
But poodles are like
it,
that. They are
they are?
so, yeah. It's
Hmm.
amazing. They're like the most
I know they're one of the most intelligent
endearing.
dogs there are.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's super smart. And he is a little bit past what my daughter looked it up, and apparently 12. They kind of,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good
big
length
dogs.
of time for them. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, it's nice that you can at least try, but mm. What area of the country are you in again? Is it New Jersey?
I'm in New Jersey,
Hmm.
and you
All
would
right.
think that I could find somebody pretty easily, but I'm still on the hunt. But I'm
Hmm.
very optimistic now. I've shifted, which is great.
I have seen the rise, at least up here, of mobile dog groomers that come around with a van, and it seems like such a brilliant little idea that somebody could have as their side hustle, but I don't know how to get in touch with with them. There must be a way to track them down. I bet Google could help me figure it out.
Good morning.
Hi,
You got
Rosa.
Good
It's
morning,
so
yeah.
good to hear
Rosa.
Good
your
morning.
voice.
Good morning.
Hi,
I was
Rosa.
listening for the voice of God. My daughter has a private groomer, and we are in D.C. She's in Waldorf, Maryland.
Well, it's not too
And
far away, but
yeah, she goes to a private lady job. She doesn't have a poodle. She has a little. I don't even know what that little teeny dog is. I call them play dogs. Kind of dogs that you can carry in your lap. I don't understand why people want lap dogs. To me, it seems like a waste of time, but he's a cutie pie. He's a cutie pie, spoiled as all outdoors, like 4 years old, still don't know. Um, but anyway, the private groomers to me are much better. Somebody in your area is coming around and grooming dogs. 'Cause that's a good thing. That's a great hustle. You'll find them. PetSmart has the key on them because it's so convenient. But you'll find,
Thank you, Rosa. I will try that route and also the mobile route.
yeah, because they're out there. Because that's a big business these days. So anyway, listening to the for the voice of God. I remember years ago when I started my practice of being diligent in seeking God first in the morning. Um, I used to read from a lot of morning meditations and thoughts and everything. And one day I realized that they were all speaking of love. They all said it in different fashions, but they were basically talking about forgiveness and love. And it was then that I realized, and I said, well, God, if this is true, that I have read and listened to like five things this morning, and they're all on the same theme. Is this you? Show me. And throughout that day, all I kept hearing and running into were the words that God had given me in the morning. So God is really talking to us every day. The miracle is when we actually tune in and see what the message is for that morning and that day. And so during the course of the day, I tend to use the thoughts of the lessons for that day throughout that day, no matter what I'm going through. And that's what's so amazing about this course is that the thoughts of the day are necessary for me to have the best day that I could possibly have if I use the thought when difficulty comes around, when I may be agitated. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not agitated because I'm listening for God's voice throughout the day. And you can say it any kind of way as long as it has the same thing to hear God's voice in everything, in every decision throughout the day, that my ego does not interrupt my flow. Because ego can interrupt your flow when you start getting into your feelings and reactions to what people say. It's none of my business, really, to even react to everything and everybody that I meet throughout the course of the day. I can't let them interrupt my theme for this day is to listen and hear God's voice. I can't say it enough times. Oh, how much I appreciate the course and you guys in talking about it. Adriana, I could not open that email that you sent me. So I
What?
don't,
Why? What happened? The link doesn't work?
It did it well. It took me to. I'm gonna try it again today.
You have to open it in the computer, not through your phone, because as it is an Excel spreadsheet, it will probably help
I'm
you
gonna.
better to see it in the computer instead of your mobile. So if you
I'm gonna
try it,
do it. I'm gonna look at it again today and see if I can open it. If I can, I'll send you an email saying why.
yeah, thank you,
Okay.
thank you, yeah, thank you, and I figured out how to send it back to you again.
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Well,
you're so
guys,
kind.
I must leave early today. So have a great and glorious day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right?
Thanks for
Nice
stopping
to
by.
see you, Rosa. Thank you for
Right.
your thoughts.
Good luck.
This just for Janine, just an aside, but she might want to ask PetSmart manager or the old groomer if there was, and maybe she already did, but ask them straight out if perhaps the reason that they banned Leo is that because Leo uh, tried to bite or successfully bit someone, the groomer or the manager, because that might really be, especially since she said that, it's old, and I know my dog doesn't necessarily like to be groomed, and that's a natural reaction for him. I know they try and put the muzzle on him, just so that she's maybe aware of maybe why uh, that happened, especially if they ban Leo through the whole system. They may not be necessarily wanting to tell everything as to what their real reason. It might not just be because of the size and the time involved, but that's a just an aside, because a lot of times there's two sides to the same story, both truth, but people don't realize that. Um, that's just an aside. Thank you.
That's a good point, Tom. Thank you.
I'd like to add something since you're talking about dogs. When I was growing up, I was around dogs and cats, and then later in my life, I haven't had them. And thinking about them the way you're caring for them, and they're so loving. I've been thinking about getting a cat lately, and I kind of researching breeds, and I just think it would be really nice to have a loving animal. They do calm your heart rate, and they say people live longer that have pets, and I've been really thinking about it, and I'm being really responsible, making sure I can take good care. And I just I remember from my childhood feeling so good around the animals, the horses. My mother would bring us to the farm, and there's something really healing and beautiful about them. And it's anyway, I wanted to add that. I guess they don't talk back, so it's kind of nice. And yes, I wanted to say hello to everyone. And I think Rosa was saying, or maybe it was Janina or Adriana, just these courses, when I have them and I reflect on them, it does create a stillness in me where I say cope, or I don't know what the right word is. Coping, isn't it? That's a state of tolerance, but it's kind of it helps you get through a rough time. 'Cause you're holding that thought instead of the ego mind, and really does help me when I carry it with my day. And even I'll go back to the old lessons and carry those if they seem to fit better. So it's just a beautiful course, and I just wanted to say good morning. I'm lucky enough to be awake at this time. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, it is, for me, this lesson, that's why, like, it seems like it's going to be a short one, because for me, this lesson, it's about me being silent.
No, it's not. It's about God's voice speaking to you all through the day. So you have to tell us what He's telling you if you want to.
Yeah, because if we are all one, and what you are saying to me is God as well, I have to really shut up and listen. I have an issue my entire life, in fact, that it has to do with that specifically, not being heard. That has been um, like the main script of my relationships. Uh, in all areas, I always struggle with the idea that I wasn't being heard. And so I always had to speak. When I was younger, I had to speak louder. So I got into trouble because my voice was overriding other people's voices in the classroom. So the teacher always like, no, Ariana, you please go. And as I'm the tallest, I was always like the tallest one in my class from the girls and the boys. I was like among the tallest people. So I was always put at the bottom of the classroom. So I always had this kind of tendency to have to speak louder and make myself like clear, because I didn't thought people heard me, because I was too back in the classroom, or because they were all talking. So the tone of my voice, I had to learn how to regulate it, because otherwise I will be always yelling, for example. And in my work later on, in my process of becoming the leader of an entire team and things like that, in the trainings that I had in my life, that specific part has been always like a constant. Like, there's some part of my ego that thinks that I'm not being heard. So I need to be careful how I speak and how I address things with my voice, because it can be overwhelming to others. I had, for example, one of the issues that I had this very same week was in fact about that. I was having this conversation with the dealership of my car, because they didn't want to take responsibility for some part that they did wrong with my car. And I told all of you in that day that Lee was in with me in the phone. I was having him in the phone, so he listened to every single word that I said to this man. And of course, Lee doesn't understand Spanish, but I was worried about how he could interpret my way of talking to that guy, because in the past I knew that with my ex-husband that will get me in trouble. But as I was not with my ex-husband, I could just freely talk with this guy with my strong voice, but without being rude to him, making my point that the issue needed to be taken care of without any kind of payment from my side. So, I asked Lee later, how do you think about this? And he said, no, I couldn't understand anything that you said, but I totally could see like the way you're talking. Lee can tell you about this instead of me, in fact, because
I'll
he
tell you
probably can.
that I would describe her as casually confident, as making a point or two, and I could hear when she was making her points, and then I could hear how she followed it up with laughter, so that it was disarming and wasn't, in your face or anything, but persistent enough to get what the right thing. The guys at the dealership didn't pay attention, and the warranty lapsed, and then they wanted her to pay for something because it was out of warranty, and it wasn't a fair situation. And yeah, you guys know how complicated these things get, but you could, just listening to one side, I could definitely hear enough of the other side of the conversation to know that it was.
Why are you
Yes,
Could
saying
I
that?
ask a question?
yeah.
I don't know why I've been thinking about it over and over again, and it's a previous lesson, but I'm sure it relates to this because I guess they all build, but I'll have to paraphrase because I don't have my book open. I'm still in bed, but I wanted to hear and actually be quiet, but this one thing's rolling around in my mind where it says, Jesus. Oh gosh, Bob or Lovely or someone will have to help me a little bit, but it says where Jesus purposely gave us an unholy perception. I'm not sure why he did that. Was that so that we could get closer to the Holy Spirit? And he gave us the perception so that I guess I'm not sure how to interpret it.
I'm not sure it said that. It does say to wait for the voice of the ego to get out of the way so that you can hear God's voice.
He says he wants you to hear his voice. He gave it to you to be heard. I don't know if that resonates with what you were trying to say here. And in fact, now that I'm reading this, he gave it, I mean, he wants you to hear his voice with capital H. He gave it to you to be heard.
How about I read through the whole thing? I can
Yeah.
do it pretty quickly, and then you can tell me if there's a
Yes,
piece. It doesn't hurt to hear it again, I think, either. So, Lesson 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It's quite possible to listen to God's voice all day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you're aware of it or not. It's the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. This is the part. It is this part that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain. Maybe that's what you were talking about, the part of our minds that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. The part that
but
is
he
listening to the...
didn't give it to us, though. He
Right,
didn't
that's our
give
ego.
us the egoic mind. We're just stuck with
Right,
it because we're human, and he
that's
gave
right.
us the Holy Spirit. Okay, that helps me a great deal because I could never
Good, me too.
recognize that he would purposely give us this messed up ego. But it's
Yeah,
our challenge each day, and I'll let you finish reading. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
no
Can
problem.
I
Well, we
say
found what
something
we're looking for. Go ahead.
before you continue? It's just that I wanted to finish
I'm
a
here
little
for you.
bit my thought that I was saying that I was trying to state a while ago. It's just that
Sure.
I learned through my experience in life of thinking that I wasn't being heard, that in fact it was because I wasn't listening, and I totally apologize again because you're
Mm,
trying to read and I'm trying to state my mind, but it's just that the learning that I got from thinking that I wasn't being heard was you need to listen more in order for you to feel that you are being heard. It's kind of a reversion
mm-hmm.
of the thought about being heard. That in order for you feel heard, you need to listen first. That was like the main point that I was trying to make with my story.
I hear
I
you.
wanted to respond to Adriana, but I'll wait
Go ahead.
to, yeah.
I don't have to reread it. We found the part that we were looking for. It's okay. Go for it.
Okay. Since I've been in this room, Adriana, I mean, I love your storytelling. You have this ability to express yourself in such a beautiful um, way that just flows from your spirit that I really enjoy. And I've learned from you because I, on the other end, tend to be silent. So we're on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
And
that's funny.
yeah, and unlike you, I guess I keep the thoughts in my mind. I'll have all these thoughts going around and around in the past, I'll say, because I don't have that so much now. And I want to express them and I don't. At times I haven't. And it's probably gotten me into trouble because I didn't speak it. I didn't speak my truth. And even though sometimes I was working things out on my own in my head, others don't know that you're working things out if you don't express
And
it.
in fact, that gives you a lot of trouble in relationship as well, because now
Yes.
I can clearly see that the guys always crack their heads trying to figure out what we want, but as we are like in this egoic mindset that we need to be like figure out, so if when they don't get us, we get mad at them, but in fact it's us that we are not being clear with what we want, because we don't even know what we want, because we are in a splitted mind. So
Yes.
in
Exactly.
relationships is where you can mostly have trouble because of that. By not saying what you really want, you're giving the partner like the control of what you will have to have in your life, and therefore you will be frustrated all the way with them because they are not able to figure out, but it's just you not being clear on what you really want. So you kind of create that kind of tension in relationship because you are not speaking your truth or your desire of how you want to be, how you want to have love in life, right?
You're so right. And I'm learning just that now in my relationship. And it's going much better because I am tapped into my heart and to that love frequency. And just I just express it more often now. And such a beautiful healing thing. And others want to hear that. I've repaired, I won't say repaired, but smoothed over something within a friendship recently, that was beautiful thanks to this practice. But yeah, I love that you can speak the way you do. I think it's quite beautiful, and I'm learning how to articulate myself verbally. I'm very good written expression, um, but I'm getting better and better at allowing spirit and my heart to speak through me and just be open, and it's okay. It used to be, I think I was fearful in the past of what others would think of me. And I think that's what was behind it. Oh my gosh, what are they going to think if I say this, if I think this, and I'm not, maybe they won't like me. And I think that's what it comes from when I was a little girl, worrying about others not liking me. And I've carried it, and it's become a thing. I think somebody even called me an introvert. I don't like labels. So and I was talking about that with my family, and they said, "Oh no, you're not an introvert. You're definitely not. Maybe sometimes, but you're also an extrovert because I like socializing. I like people."
And haven't you thought that you don't like labels because you don't like to speak?
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe you
So,
don't like labels because they don't define you really well. You are both sides of that coin. We both, I mean, I have that same part of me too, where there's times where I want to be alone, but there's definitely times where I think most people probably think I'm an extrovert. I probably fit that mold a little bit better. I could
yeah,
hear it
I
in
I
your
think
voice
I
that you
am.
could be that somebody could think you're an introvert because you're quite soft spoken, but
Yeah,
you have
and
wonderfully deep thoughts worth hearing.
oh, thank you. And when I enjoy my private time so much, I'm an only child too, so only children perfect aloneness so well, and I'm quite happy being alone. But I love being with people too. So, but that expression is so important. I think, um, when we
And you
and it
have a beautiful
especially
voice.
here.
Your voice is like this soft and deep. I mean, you really have a beautiful voice, Janine. So you
Oh,
should be
thank you,
confident on
Adriana.
using it more often, because for me it's soothing. Hearing your voice is soothing. So
I
Well,
you
like
thank
it
you
never
so
let
too,
that go.
much.
Janine. It's very soothing and nice when you speak.
Oh, you guys are just making my heart just sing this morning. Thank you so much.
Could I share something on when I go pick my son up at school when he was younger? I would purposely go to hear them sing, and maybe my voice isn't that great right now at 4 a.m., but it's small. Could I share it? It goes, this is my story, this is my song. God is my savior all the day long. And I heard it and I'd go, especially for that. And when I'd get frustrated, because I didn't have the Course in Miracles, I'd sing that. And it really helped me. And I didn't feel lonely at that time, but I liked solitude. There's a difference, I guess, between solitude and loneliness, but whatever it was, even in the solitude and the silence, I loved singing that song to remind me God was with me all the day long. Thank you for letting me share that little memory.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dr.
Dr.
Amy. I
Amy.
know that song. I'm singing
Yeah,
it now in my head. Yes,
good.
I know that hymn.
Yes, it's a little song. It's nice.
I'd like to welcome anybody who's down in the audience. Raise your hand if you feel like you would like to come up and share. We're going through workbook lesson 49 in our book, A Course in Miracles. We're here every morning at about 6:30, and we read through the lessons, and we read some notes on the lessons from A Course in Miracles workbook for dummies. And then I lead a quick meditation so that we can get this in our day. And we're in the lessons part of A Course in Miracles, which has a main text. The middle part's the lessons, and the last part is the manual for teachers. And certainly we change the way that our minds work as we do these lessons. We change the way that we think about things. I'm going to throw out the I'm going to use the term devil's advocate view real quick. I read an article about how A Course in Miracles is like a cult, and how it can get you to drone on in your mind and kind of um, uh, I guess brainwash yourself a little bit with the ideas of getting into peacefulness, and you need do nothing, and challenging the thing that they that the article didn't say is that we work towards challenging our preconceived notions, and this too is a great thing to take in and read through articles that show the opposite of exactly what you believe in. And so for me, obviously reading through this book for now 6 years with my dad, I put a lot of time and effort into reading it and trying to pull out as many different ideas as I could. The article talked about following charismatic leaders, and his reference was Marianne Williamson, who's of course really charismatic, but also I've never seen anything she does that takes advantage of anybody, or anything that's cult-like or cultish about her that isn't any more cultish than any other TV preacher. So you're gonna get caught up with Marianne Williamson, you get caught up with any others. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting to see that come up in the Facebook feed, and really enjoyed reading it and kind of challenging my thoughts for a minute just to make sure.
But
But
you
I
know
still
what?
feel.
What's funny about it? That they
Tell me.
took parts. They took parts of the book, but they don't. They disregard completely the single one thing that it's really consistent in the book. That it's the oneness idea. What I have been seeing in my experience in spirituality, that is not that much like the one that you had already. But what I have seen is that every spiritual path that we take will guide us to a higher place, and it's helpful. But like the main achievement is when you really have this strong sense of the oneness, and when you go and see parts of the book getting out of the context of the oneness, of course they seem like this is mad. But if you really take into consideration that the book all over the place states everything is within you, and you are one with everyone and with everything, and it's just that you need to realize that this is your doing, and you are listening all the all the I mean, you're looking outside what is within you. That's what makes all over again the same mistake that the tiny mad idea has done in the world. That is taking away the oneness. If you take away the concept of one, of anything, even if there is the book, if the book, if it is some other thing, you will not have an experience of miracles. You will not have an experience. You will not have an experience of gratitude of everything. I mean, you will not heal, because if you take the part of the oneness out of the context, you will be in the same mistake again. So
Yeah,
it's
it makes total sense to me. I mean,
yeah,
I wanted to just bring it up because
yeah,
it's easy for me to shoot a lot of holes in the way that he put it. One of his arguments was that the phrase at the beginning that says this is a required course leads people to believe that it's cultish. You know, that you have to take the course. It doesn't ever say that, and I think Tom, you're an amazing example of this, that this really is one of those texts that you can take in, do what you need to do with it, and then go about your life and look for the next learning lessons that you've got. This is a textbook like any other textbook, meaning it's a course like any other course. You take the course, and it doesn't mean you have to take the course every year for the rest of your life. You take the course and use it as you need. I did the lessons years ago. I skipped last year, but and this might be the last time I need to go through it. I'm reading here selfishly for my own purposes. I'm not letting my dad read. I'm taking it all for myself because I know I'm going to drink as deep from this cup as I possibly can and squeeze the sponge out and get every drop out. I'm going to mix metaphors, but I'm going to get as much out of this set of lessons as I can. This is going to be my year for really consuming this course and getting what I can out of it. And I hope it's really helpful to you all, but it's really helpful to me to read it out loud to everybody else and to get it right and to really put everything I can into it. So, thank you
Yeah,
for showing up
here,
and giving me a
Lee.
chance
You
to
do
share it.
put so much into it, and I feel it. I wonder if maybe 20 years from now you'd revisit it again. If people do that, maybe your father has said, well, I've drunk the full elixir of it, but then 20 years later you might have a different perception. I
I'm
hope I'll
sure.
do that.
Yeah,
Can,
yeah. You know what? 20 years. Let's meet back here.
Or
can I say
10 or
something?
5, or I don't know.
As you wish.
Can I say something in regards to it is a required course?
Yes,
Uh,
please.
the Course in Miracles says that there's all kinds of different paths. That this is just one. Whenever it says this is a required course, the question is, are they really referencing the textbook, the Course in Miracles, or are they referencing the idea that the
Yeah,
course is uncovering your fear and overcoming it? Jesus says that the only thing that he cannot do is remove your fear. So when I read that and it says this is a required course, that's not referencing the textbook or the workbook Course in Miracles. It's referencing the idea that this world is a fear based world, and the required course is that we learn how to overcome, eliminate, manage our fears. It's not the Course in Miracles, because Jesus says right in there, there's all kinds of paths, and there's truth in all those paths. You have to find your own path, but the course that we have to take here, if we want to escape this fear based world, is to understand that I am not a body. I am free. I am still as God created me. Nothing sources my experience except me, and nothing can rob me of my own inner peace unless I choose to allow it. That's the curriculum that we're here to learn, that this is a world of perception. It's not our reality, and that we actually uh, control and create our own fears whenever we believe that we're not perfect, whole, and complete, that we want to argue for our littleness, and that we're not as God created us. And that's, gets into the authority problem, and us saying that our ego knows what we are, not God, that God somehow created some kind of junk and doesn't know what he's doing, what she's doing. So the course that's required for everyone, if we want, why we came here, is to learn how to overcome, eliminate our fears, not the Course in Miracles, uh, the text itself. So I just wanted to, put that in
Yeah.
because I know that maybe uh, doesn't sit with people. We like to say that we've got the only truth, but that's not, the truth. There's truth in all kinds of things. And the Course in Miracles, I like it because it's a complete, and it has the workbook lessons. So it's a complete philosophy and step by step process if you understand it. But, it's not required. Everybody is not required to read the Course in Miracles and understand that text. If it doesn't resonate with you, there's other things that will. Your job is to find the way that works, and the Holy Spirit will guide you to that way. Thank you.
Well put. Well put.
Hi there. I haven't said very much this morning, and I am so grateful beyond anything that I didn't, because guess what? On the bottom of this room, meaning the folks in the other part of the room, was a man whose name is Keanu Charles Reeves. He was here. I have written 3 messages to him. He's not here now. I started to write to him when he was still there, and I thought it must be a joke. He just happens to look like him.
He's long gone
But
now. What does it
I know.
matter?
If you go back
It's
and
not a real
look
person. It's not a real
at the
person. It's okay. It's just a
Actually,
bot.
I've
It's
excuse
okay.
me,
seen
lady.
3 or 4 of him. He
Excuse
writes
me.
me all the time, 4 of them. I don't know what's going on with him.
What? I'm sorry.
I say I've had 3 or 4 different personalities of Keanu Reeves talk to me and write to me. I've had to. I said, well, I'm confused. There are 4
There's a
different
bunch of
voices.
them.
I don't know what's going on there.
I know.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like a dozen of them. It's really weird.
I know it. I was
How
like
about
Rob
that?
when I first saw him. I thought, oh wow, but no, there's like a lot.
Between cryptocurrency traders and Keanu Reeves, this clubhouse place is crazy.
And there's a lot of His Holiness of the UAE Faza. There's like 6 of those, and a bunch of Brad Pitts as well.
Well, I have not run into Brad Pitts yet, thank goodness. But sorry, Dad. I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
I'm
Please
sorry
continue.
too, but
Yeah, there's a lot of trickery in the the digital world, the social media world.
But I would like to
yeah, it is
continue listening
trickery.
to Bob. Bob, what were you saying, please?
Luisa, were you speaking? It's just that I
Yeah, no,
heard you.
Louisa was echoing what I said. Dad, please continue. I'm sorry I interrupted. I'm sorry I took the air out of your balloon, but please continue with what you were going to say. Dad, your mute is on.
Yeah, I just need to think a little bit about this.
Okay, no problem.
I would like to say something.
Yeah, please.
Hi. So first of all, welcome to all the new people. I'm happy to see new people, and I'm happy to see a fellow Colombian, Caro Ayerbe. Welcome. We are 2 Colombians here up, Adriana and myself. And the second thing I wanted to say about today's lesson was, yeah, the voice of God speaks to me during the whole day. I have the Spanish version here for me, so I don't know if I just said it correctly, but that's the idea. And I want to share something that happened to me many years ago when I was living with my partner, my child's dad who died 7 years ago. We were having some rocky times, and I was always calling to my mom to complain and say like, but he doesn't like yoga. And he doesn't like what I do, and he doesn't meditate, and he doesn't do this, and she was like, she was God at that time for me. She was so wise, and she said, "What does he do?" And I said, "He's always into plants and gardening. Come on." And then
Is
Oh no.
me or we missed Luisa
No, I think
at
Louisa
home?
maybe got a phone call
sorry,
right in
my,
the
my
middle.
son is
Luis,
calling. My son is calling, so I don't. So my mom said, the yoga of his yoga, his way of meditation, his connection, his spiritual life is his gardening and his plants. So just be open and share with that, because he doesn't have to do what you do. He doesn't have to like what you like, but you are not honoring your yoga and your spirituality by condemning or by um, rejecting someone just because it's not doing what you do. So I was, that that was for me the voice, God's voice speaking to me through my mom. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm still waiting for Bob because he was speaking, and I really would love to hear what you always have something super nice to say. So please.
Well, it's very, thank you, Louisa. But I basically, I don't know if I was right or wrong. I went and checked his Google, and by his middle name, I thought that would at least tell me. But I was either fooled or whatever. I told him that I wrote to him. I guess there were 4 little messages. One of them being that last night I went to watch the last of the Max movies. There were 4 of them. First, I found out that it cost $25 just to watch it, which Lee had told me, and I wanted to see maybe somehow it would be different on my TV. And then I realized, because I was with Sean, who's not here this morning, that I had already watched the 4th one, fortunately, when it was free to me. And then I went to watch the first 3 to get the whole story. So I still have the whole story. And the story itself is kind of special to me. So I really thought, wow, I really scored big on this. I found him. And it really doesn't matter. He's just another bag of bones, just like we are. But his spirit and is just like ours also. And the important thing is not whether or not he shows up in our room. It's not God bestowing something special on us. It's simply another person who, as Tom said before, is looking at this required course thing. And maybe he'll learn something as well. But I have to tell you that it did strike my ego, and it was painful to hear Lee correct me on it, because I had already vested a lot of interest in it, not interest so much as, to be perfectly blunt and plain, I thought I really did something special here. So there you go. You didn't get it, I did. But in fact, that's ego talk, of course. And um, thank you, Louisa, for, even though you can't hear me now because you're on the phone with your son, thank you very much for allowing me to come back and just finish up that thought. I had to think about it, and I did. And I'm just as happy now as I was before he supposedly appeared. And the funny part for me was actually, my first message was simply, "Are you the one?" Which, if you've seen the Matrix movies, you would have known the meaning of that. He is the
I
one in
couldn't
the
be more
movie.
proud of you, Dad. I
So
couldn't be more proud of you.
I can laugh at it now, and I enjoyed The Matrix. Lee has been after me for about 4 years to watch the movie, and
More
so
like
I finally
20.
did that. More than
It's more,
20,
it's
probably
more like
so.
20. The first movie came out 20 years ago.
Well,
It's been that long that it's
yeah,
yeah, I know it's a great storytelling that follows that arc.
yeah. And if you like
But
seeing
I
if you like seeing people fly through the air and do karate, I mean, the funny part is if he has any sense of a messianic character, it's really strange that he has to fight everybody using karate. I mean, it's just that's not a miracle worker kind of guy. But flying around is not too
it's
bad
magic
either.
karate, come on.
Oh, really? Gee, now
I
that
don't
I
know.
didn't know. Yeah, it's very magical, and it was fun to watch it, especially with Sean. So we had a good time. So that's it. That's my little story. But I really thought I had seen the one, and I was proud of my own little pun that was just perfect there. So there you go. Thanks for
Fear
letting
is
me talk.
perfect, and you are the voice of God as well to me. So we
Well,
always
you
want to
know,
hear
Bob,
your
you're
voice.
not alone. When he first reached out to me, it struck my ego. Oh, while he's writing to me until I realized there are four, so it happened the same way with me. And I realized, oh, well, my ego was involved there, thinking just because he's famous, I guess, like you concluded, whoever he is, he's a child of God too. But I felt the same that you did, so thank you for being so vulnerable there. Because I felt it too, and I mentioned it to someone, and I felt silly later. Thank you.
Me too. I've done it too. Welcome, Cairo.
So hi everybody. So I was just listening and just wanted to come up and say hi very quickly, and especially to my fellow Colombians, Adriana and Luisa. And it's my first time here. I haven't been in Clubhouse for months because I don't know, I just lost interest in it. And just somehow I felt today like I wanted to come in, and so you guys united, and I decided to jump in and just listen. I really have nothing to share except to just say hi and tell you that I've been a really serious student of the Course in Miracles for about 5 years. This will be I just started
Wow.
my fourth time around. I'm on lesson 23, I think, right now.
Okay. Okay.
I generally stay with the lesson a couple of days because I feel like the second
Sure.
day it sinks in even more.
Yeah. I did that
Um,
my second time
but
around. I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah, so it feels to me like every day it just sinks in and sinks in and sinks in deeper, even more. Not that every day is not a challenge, especially my thing is I am the biggest judge of all people around me because um, uh, you know I, I'm a smart person. I'm a professional. I'm a consultant. So I you know I guess I have a big ego in that sense. Big ego, in the regular notion of the ego, but also a big ego in our spiritual realm definition.
Yeah.
But that's something that I struggle with every day and that I work really hard at and that I pray a lot about because I just people around me who make mistakes and that I think that if they just did the Course in Miracles, their life would be so much better. It would be so much easier. And so just trying to respect everyone's path, with in peace and with ease. That's something that I work on every day. But just wanted to say hi and just tell you that. It's amazing. It's great that you guys get together in this room to discuss these topics. It's I find that the Course in Miracles, it's not something that is too mainstream.
Yeah,
Around me, I'm
yeah.
the only person who does it, and so it's nice to find fellow
Oh
Course
my
in
God, that is
Miracles students.
amazing,
So,
Caro. Welcome. Welcome to this family. We have been here I began to be here in October. I'm from Cali, but I live in Mexico. And Luisa is from Manizales, I guess, and she lives in Belgium. So we are all over the world. But this has
oh,
been
I'm in
really
Bogota.
yeah, I knew. I just saw your profile. I know. So welcome here, and I will as well invite you to the Facebook group. We actually changed the. Well, I'm gonna back channel you with the link of the Facebook group. If you want to see the
I'll change it
previous.
back.
Yeah, thank you. The previous streamings that we have been doing, because we are not only here in Clubhouse, we are as well in Facebook and in other platforms that Lee sets up every morning. So this has been a quite an
You can
adventure
listen
for
to
me.
lesson 23 if you want to. We've got all the old ones if you want. But I
Yeah,
think since you've gone through them before, stick with your where you're at, but you can
yeah,
still come in here and listen because you know what's coming and you know where you've been. Doing it at your level is perfect. Do it
it's
exactly the
perfect. It
way that
will give
you're
us
moved to do
more
it. Yeah.
perspective. Yeah. So if
Well, let me jump in here. First of all,
Oh, sure.
there
Now that you
are
got your upgrade
only
done, yeah, add
there
that.
are only 3 Colombians in the world who do
Oh,
this, and they're right here, just so you know now. But um, but there several thoughts come here. First of all, I think, do I pronounce your name Caro or
it's
it's from
just short for
Caroline.
Carolina.
Uh huh. Yeah, like
You can
Cat
call
Caroline.
me Carol,
Caro?
like Carol. Yeah,
Okay,
or
so I
Caro.
live in North Carolina, so it's the way that word starts. But I think it's more important, based on this lesson today, to listen to God's voice for you, who might be telling you, could be, I'm just suggesting. Um, we do in this room, we started on January 1st, and it just happened, um, coincidence, right? Um, that we finished up reading the whole text at the end of last year. And so we started on January 1st, which is the only reason that we're on lesson 49, this being the 49th day of the year, for anyone who's counting that way. But, you know, your voice, that voice in you, is God's voice. And you can think of it in terms of, what would your ego want you to do at this moment? Well, not this moment, yeah, going forward. And what would the Holy Spirit want you to do? And that is exactly what this whole lesson is for us to learn to differentiate. And we do it by trying. And it doesn't mean that you can't do both, but it's totally up to you. Whatever, you're the decision maker. That's what Lee read in the very beginning. And you can listen to either of the two voices, and you can make your judgment up that way. So we're not here, to, of course, to tell you what or how or when to read anything. We are doing the lesson 49 the best way we know how through the day. We actually have, I never heard of it before, maybe a few weeks ago, but there's a, what's it called? ACIM timer. Or what is it, Lee? I forget the
Remind,
name of it.
remind. ACIM remind.
Yeah,
yeah.
and it every hour it goes off, and sometimes people say, "What's that?" And I say, "Oh, it's just something on my phone," and then I hang up the phone if I was talking to someone, and I can remember to do the lesson. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. Um, I I started doing it avidly about 20 years ago, but I first heard about it 30 years ago, and I can't get enough of it. So um, any way that you get it is good, and I just refer you to the voice within. Thanks.
Could I ask a question? You're talking about the Facebook, but I know replays are on. I know it's ignorance on my part about Clubhouse, but can we go back to the replays? Are they readily available on here where we could hear it here? Or does anyone
After about
know?
14 days, they become unavailable. So I am downloading these sessions. I am putting them out to Facebook, to YouTube, and to Twitch. And honestly, Twitch is going to be an easy platform to catch up on everything, the entire recordings, if you wanted to go through one by one. But any way
Oh,
you
I
guys
don't
want to,
know Twitch, but YouTube, what is it called? Would you tell me, please? Because
YouTube,
I like to revisit them too and hold them like Caro and like
you know
Bob
what?
said.
I'll send you in a back channel. I'll send you all the links, and
Thank you
I'll post
so
them out to the
much.
web. Yeah, it'll be a lot easier for you to click on them than for me to try and even spell it out.
Yes, I
Um,
thank you.
no problem, no problem. I honestly, I'm putting it out in as many different ways as I can because I feel like I'm going to cast as wide of a net as I can this year, and give God the most opportunity to make the most use of whatever we make. Tom has been incredibly gracious in granting me access to his books, and most of what I read is his thoughts that he kind of put together, and then the rest of it is just the magic that everybody else brings to this. So I do want to ask Kara a question. I would love to know, and Dad, maybe you've got a question first, and I could let you ask first because I can hold on to mine.
Oh, I was just going to throw another joke on myself here, because after I started talking with Keanu Reeves
My
himself,
God, and the
L1,
Matrix just took you
I
over.
noticed that down there in yeah, but then I saw MW and it was
I'm
Marianne.
sorry,
I
I'm
said, "Oh
dying
my
over
God,
here.
Marianne Williamson must be here
Yeah,
also."
Marianne, thank
So
you.
I just had a great time today. I mean, look at all the
Goodness
We
people
are
that
gracious.
are
getting
coming.
traction. We are getting
Hi,
traction.
Charlotte.
He
Welcome back.
said the Matrix
Absolutely.
just took you over.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Kara, and then maybe even Charlotte will come up and give me her story. But I'd love to know how the book found you, or how you found the book, because that's really a helpful thing to kind of get that backstory and kind of see where you're coming from too. How did it arrive in your life?
Oh, thank you. So in 2016, I got sick. I had a digestive issue. It wasn't like life-threatening, painful, very physically painful. So, and the thing it was that, well, I've been, on a spiritual path since 2004, but then in 2016 I got this illness, and it happened that because of the pain, of the physical pain, my mind started getting really crazy, really neurotic, and just I just started like spinning out. And at the time, I was doing anything, any therapy, anything that I could do to heal my body. And one of those things was this therapy with magnets. And I had to
Oh
lay
yeah.
down and, place some magnets around my body so that they would help heal the body. But the thing is with this therapy is that you can't move. You have to stay still with the magnets because otherwise they will lose their place, with the correct position. So I would have to lie down and use the magnets, and that would be like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And I would be like, oh man, oh no, this is so boring. What am I going to do?
Yeah,
So
you're
I
stuck.
started looking for something on YouTube to watch, and I'd heard about Marianne Williamson before because of my spiritual path, but I hadn't really, paid attention to her. So I was just looking for something, and then something to watch while I was just lying there with the magnets. And then this lecture of hers came up, and I started listening to the lecture. And the thing was that You're not going to believe this, but um, so I started listening to the lecture and closing my eyes so that I could relax and just, be with the magnets. And what happened was that she would put me to sleep. So the lecture, I mean, I would put on the lecture and I would fall asleep. Um, and that suited me because it made the 2.5 hours pass quickly because I was sleeping and I was resting. So that really helped me. But after a while, after I guess a couple of months of doing that, some concepts started to sink in about what she was saying. And she was talking about this book and the course and everything. And I didn't know, I'd heard about it before, but I didn't really know anything about how it worked or how it had come about. And but through her lectures, I started learning about it, and I started, learning about the concepts and the different ways that the Christian terms were used. Because I have my background is in Catholicism, as most Colombians. Um, and so, but the more I listened to her, the more it made sense. It just made sense. It was just, to me, it became like common sense. And so there was something that she used to say in the lectures. She would say when in the Q&A, people would, ask the question, and she would just pick it up that the person was not doing the course. She would say, hey, are you doing the course? And people would say, no, I'm not doing the course. And she would say, my suggestion is that you try it. Just try it. See, if you're here, you are probably, attracted to these ideas. So why don't you try it for 30 days? And if you like it, great. If you don't like it, you feel that it's not for you, it will not have been a waste of your time. And so I said to myself, well, I could try that. I could try that. And so I started trying it. I started with the workbook. Um, and it, the more I did it, the more it just made sense. It's just common sense. It's so, I mean, for me, it's not, it's just very logical and very um just uh just very, I wouldn't say easy to understand, because the Christian terms sometimes get a little bit in the way. But once you get past that, it's just the way to be, to me. And so I started doing it, and then I have been reading the text. I haven't finished the text, um, but I'm reading it, just little by little. I finished the other books. I finished the manual for teachers and the other supplements. And then that was 2016. I started on 2018. So I was 2 years into my illness. And then in 2018, I started with the workbook. And then, well, I just, I got help, and my body started healing. And now I'm healthy, and I just don't see how regular people just go about their day without having a spiritual practice
What
of
a
any kind,
transformative
because it's
illness.
just,
Wow.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's clear to me that physical pain is one of those things that really just crack me open. It wasn't life
Mm,
threatening. It
wow.
wasn't like I was going to, it wasn't like this very difficult. I mean, it was very difficult, but it wasn't like cancer, or it wasn't like something that was really like, it was just chronic pain. And that was
So
enough for me to
non-specific.
just crack open.
Oh my God. That's so,
Yeah.
yeah. It seems like one of those kind of illnesses that just infuriating, right? The doctors just have nothing they can help with.
Well, I mean, today I think it wasn't that serious, but my mind made it very, very serious.
Yeah.
My mind made it worse every day, made it worse, it made it worse. I even had to be medicated there for a while, because the anxiety was just unbearable. I wouldn't sleep. It was just it was really crazy. And now I know, I mean, the last time, because I would get better, and I would have these, how do you say in English, these
Which one? Which word?
Anxiety attack?
um no, where you go back, a relapse. So I would get a
Oh,
little bit better, and then I would have a relapse, and I would have a relapse. And the last relapse that I had was the first time that I felt I had been doing the course for a while there. And so I felt like it was different. The last relapse I had, it was different. Like I could see it,
something
I could
transformed.
feel the pain, but it was just different. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna ride it. I'm gonna ride this wave one more time, and just stop, um I don't know, fixating on it so much. Um and that's
2016 was a tough
when
year. Yep.
well, that's when it started, and that was just suffering for 2 years. And then that's when I started the workbook. And when I started the workbook, that was January, and then the last relapse was about June. So I had been doing it for like 6 months, when that last relapse, and that's when I started healing. It's taken years. It's taken years, but you know, I guess it happened for a reason.
Great, Clara. What a wonderful story to hear. And you use A Course in Miracles in your practice, like the main source of. Because I see that you are like consultant, but I don't know if it is in coaching or if it is in other area. Your practice is based on A Course in Miracles.
My spiritual personal practice, yes, that's what I do. I've Since 2004, I started doing many different things, but right now I'm focusing on the Course in Miracles. And I'm at this point in my work, I am incorporating Course in Miracle topics, not topics, yeah, maybe topics, or
The
some
concepts.
concepts of the Course in Miracles in my consultancy. I am a time management consultant. But here's the thing: when you start to understand that there is no time, that we are living an illusion,
About to say
that,
that. Well, that's interesting because time doesn't exist.
yeah, really, right. So when you start understanding that, and then you start understanding that, um, your anxiety, and that the um,
Depression.
the worry and the
Yeah.
pressure that you feel from other people, and the demands on your time, and your productivity, are really a product of your own mind, then it becomes really interesting what you can do from a productivity standpoint, right? So I have this online program that I teach, and I have been incorporating some of these concepts, but right now I am going even deeper and deeper and deeper. Like this year, the past about 4 or 5 months, I've been going deeper and teaching, not in the language of the Course in Miracles, because that's not going to work with my audience, but incorporating these concepts in a way that they can start to, open up their minds, and just getting them in to, you know, you don't have enough time because you're doing this, because you're focusing on this, because you're concentrating on this, because you're allowing your mind to tell you to go astray in this direction. So I am incorporating it. I didn't feel like, I mean, I have reached a point right now where I feel that I'm ready to do that, because I hadn't felt ready to do that before. I kind of like didn't have the language. But right now, because I've been going deeper and deeper, I feel like I am developing the language to be able to communicate it to my clients and to my audience in a way that is not threatening, but it'll be practical and it'll be something that they can,
Wow.
practice every day. So with my latest clients, they're like mind blown, because it's like I had not seen my productivity this way. I had not
Yeah.
even considered that it was my mind, um,
Blocking you. Yeah.
creating these
Wow.
situations where I don't have enough time to do what I want to do, to go pursue my dreams, to everything in life. So yeah, so I'm incorporating it. I'm working on it because there's a lot of content that needs to be created, for an online program, videos and lessons and workbooks. But I'm
Amazing, Caro. I congratulate you because that's, I mean, we don't have to speak in the specific words of the Course in Miracles to help people to approach this. It's just that if you do this for yourself, you will always find a way to speak the language of others in order for get them the idea that there's something in their minds that needs to be reversed, forgiven, or whatever, in order for them to spend a life more at peace. And that's wonderful. I really, if you can give me like the links of your site or something, that will give me really a joy, because you're doing something that that I really want to see. So I
oh,
will
cool,
appreciate
Adriana.
if
Yes,
you,
I will.
yeah, thank you in the back
I will
channel, thank you.
DM you and I'll send them to you. Like, for
Awesome.
instance, that you mentioned forgiveness, and one of the things that I think really takes people by surprise is why you don't have enough time. The question is whom who whom have you not forgiven, right? And how much that resentment and those grievances are getting in the way of you having enough time in the day to do what you want to do, because you're wasting time contemplating these thoughts about recrimination and condemnation towards other people. So that's one example of the kinds of things that I'm starting to cover
Totally,
in my content.
totally get it. In the
Very empowering.
productivity area, there's so many time wasted in that, when we have this tension and competitiveness with our team workers, or our teammates, or whatever. They're always seem to spend so much time finding the responsible instead of making solutions to the problem. And that's the whole special
Exactly.
relationship. Yeah, I totally get the I mean, the word
The
of
connection.
your, the connection, and the word that you're doing, working through the time concept in terms of productivity with this kind of huge thoughts, because I have seen that in the past in work, in my work, when I have my career going. And one of the struggles that the people had in teamwork is getting above the conflict, like the special relationship among them, and focusing on the issue, on the problem and solutions, not the responsible. So I can see clearly the great work that you're doing, taking the time as a platform to expand these concepts.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I have to say goodbye for now, because my kid needs to go to school, so I'm gonna take her. And I thank you, everybody. Thank you, Caro.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful gift you have gave me today. So
Have a
have a
good one.
wonderful day, everybody. I love you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
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 Wonderful.
Bye.
All right, Kara, thank you so much for sharing. I really, really appreciate it. Charlotte, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of tell us your story and how you, I don't know, found your way here, let's say.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, everyone. I think it's my first
Hi,
time
Charlotte.
talking over here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for opening the platform as well for me. My story, let's see, it could be a long one or a short one, but let me just start with how the books came to my hand. I In 2013 I was introduced to nonviolent communication. I don't know if anyone is familiar with it.
Yeah,
Eh,
Rosenberg. Yes.
yes. And so I was in a really dark space back then in my life, and this group, which was created by my friends, we were practicing nonviolent communication heavily every week. And so I was very curious about it. I think it helped me a lot at that time. And I didn't have a job back then, and I used to spend a lot of time watching videos on YouTube and getting to know new people that were talking on the subject of compassionate communication. And I came across one day, after a few months that I had been doing nonviolent communication, of this guy that was interviewing somebody else. I can't remember what it was, who it was either. But he was trying, the title of it was comparing nonviolent communication to ACIM. And I didn't know what that was. That was the first time I saw those letters together. And so the conversation started by just point by point trying to see what things were in common and what were not in common. And I was very intrigued by what the other person, the interviewee, was saying about uh, ACIM, because he kept saying ACIM. He would never say uh, A Course in Miracles. So I started Googling it to understand what that was. I came across the book itself. I came across other people like David Halfire. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Probably I'm butchering it. And so I love the way that they were explaining a lot of the questions, a lot of the things that I have questioned for in my life since I was very young. So after like a couple of weeks of reading about it online and listening to other people, I went to a secondhand store, bookstore, and I found 4 of those books, and I bought all of them. I thought the message was so good that I wanted to have extras so that I can give it to people around whenever I would enter into this type of philosophical discussions. So I started reading it, and everything that I was reading was making so much sense to me, at least. In the answers to really deep, difficult philosophical questions that the book would give were so consistent and congruent, as compared to anything else in my life that I had come across, including nonviolent communication. They all had some form of hole in their logic, and I value that a lot. So when I find something that doesn't make sense, it something internal inside me turns off, and I cannot fully get into it. But as I kept reading and listening to other people online, the more it makes sense. So I started using um, this concept of letting go of your plans, of trying to control, because I'm very controlling. I'm a very controlling person. Of trying to control the outcomes of things, the path that I need to take, in understanding that there's uh, really, I don't know what's best for me. I really don't understand that at all. In understanding that the Holy Spirit does know
because it is the right mind. I think is the description that it uses in the book of the Christ. It gave me so much freedom, especially at that time that I was struggling and I was not. Physically, I was not well. I was not well emotionally and mentally, but just having that particular piece of information that I don't know what's convenient, what's best for me. I don't know what really is convenient for me. That I had to put myself in the hands of the Holy Spirit and open my ears and my eyes to look and listen to the signs that is providing was really what caught me and enticed me to continue that path. That's basically the the story. Ever
Yeah.
since then, I've been on and off. I haven't been able to do all of the lessons. I recall reading in some part of the book where it says that if you are at any moment feeling a sensation of fear, that you need to step back and just wait until you are there. So every time I get, I think, to lesson 20, 21 or something like that, I become overcome with panic. So I had to stop.
Oh, interesting.
hmm
And
But
is
I
that
keep,
as far as you've gotten, or have you still kind of pushed through?
no, that's as far as I got in the last
Oh,
time.
fascinating.
But I keep
Tom talks
nonetheless.
about that a bunch. I'm
To,
sorry,
say
continue.
that again.
Tom talks about that a bunch. Tom Wakechild is one of the authors of one of the books that I'm reading from, and he's a coach too, and one of the people that he coached had gotten in the lessons, started them over and over and over for 20 years and never made it past 20, and it
As
was just
well.
yeah, yep, and sometimes you just have to plow through, and getting on the other side of it is realizing that there's being in control of the outcome means that 365 lessons is a lot that's out of your control. You're having to
hmm
submit to learning something really slowly when you really just want to get it and go. So I guess it makes complete sense to me that would be a pattern that people fall into. And I too had to kind of either take it slow, multiple days per lesson, or the first time through was just really painful. So I think I see where you're coming from.
Hmm. It's the first time I come across of this phenomena. I have not heard anyone say that they have, even though the book says that could happen. I haven't come across anyone saying that they have panic, especially around that lesson.
Charlotte, this is Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi. I just went back real quick to look and see what the lesson was, and it says, I am determined to see. And it's possible that the ego, which really doesn't want us to continue with this course, that it knows that in
hmm
some way that this is not really what you need to be doing, you know. And with that particular statement, I am determined to see. If you don't see it on that day, you think you're a failure. Well, the funny part is, it just says, it doesn't mean I will see today. It just means I am determined to see. And the ego, I can imagine, really doesn't like it. And so he mounts an attack, or she mounts an attack to stop it. Now, I'm kind of being anthropomorphic here, of course, and I'm not saying that he's sitting around waiting for everybody to hit number 20 at all, but it's probably um, m- more possible with a lesson that's worded that way. And I've learned that it's, having been through it many times, really, it doesn't matter anymore, because ultimately what it says right here for today, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It doesn't say that it starts on this day, that starts happening. It's always been there.
hmm
And it's always also been the ego. And it's not like the ego is some bad guy with a mask on, not to be confused with the other kinds of masks these days. It's not that at all. It, there's a laziness part of it. There's a lot of different things, but somehow the ego, which was all an illusion to start with, knows that that would be not a very good idea. If someone really wanted to know the truth, they probably wouldn't pay attention to me so much anymore. And, we even heard in this morning's reading, the ego speaks first almost every time. Now,
Mhm.
I mean, I can't guarantee it's every time, it doesn't matter. But the point is, the ego wants to get in there. He wants to impress you. Listen to me. I know what's best. I understand this world better than anything, and so on and so on and so on. So uh, I really think that in a way we could say that it's the beginning of mounting it. In that context, I want to say that my experience is similar to Tom's, Tom Wakechild, who is not here at the moment. He's the one that wrote the For Dummies versions of A Course in Miracles. And we read that simply because what he does is takes the pronouns that sometimes can be confusing to someone who doesn't understand what's going on yet. And he says what the pronoun refers to. It's God's voice, for example, instead of he speaks to me, it's he will add in God's voice speaks to me.
Mm.
Things like that. Just to clarify. And nobody really changes the context successfully. There are people who try and summarize it. There are people who work with it. But every one of us does it in our own way, because it's not about making copycats here. This is just the opposite. The last thing that we need is to have everybody to talk the same way. This is about every individual finding his own individuality. And God's voice, I was going to say this to Caro before, God's voice is not a matter of the language. And it, it's his voice. He talks to us, but he speaks in whatever language is easiest for us to understand, or sometimes not even a language at all. It's been fairly easy for me because of my background to be able to accept the idea that there's a voice in me that is God's voice. In fact, it makes a lot of sense to me that there is sometimes an intrusion on that gets me into trouble. If I find myself arguing with someone, as I did this morning earlier, and I'm stepping on what they're trying to say, and then they're stepping on what I'm trying to say, and it goes on and on like that, that's a clear example that I'm not listening to God's voice. There's a man who was here a few days ago who I've known for, about 6 months. His name was Stanley, and he has been involved in ACIM for quite some, well, actually about 5 or 6 years. And he said something that it has meant so much to me. But when I listen to him, more than any other person I know, he makes sure that I finish what I started to say. And there's a pause, almost as if to say, are you finished? He's not rushing me. He's just giving me that time. And I feel heard by him. And it's very meaningful to me. This guy is really listening and cares about what I'm saying. And that's not always the case. Anyone who keeps stepping on words that I'm saying, well, they might be eager. It doesn't mean they're always thinking something um, egotistical or egoic. It doesn't mean that. It just means that we give honor to other people to let them finish their thought, and it makes for better communication. So I'm just throwing these ideas and thoughts out because um, it might be helpful. The last thing I want to say is, in my experience, I also went through many different religious ways and spiritual ways of looking at things. Um, I started off an Orthodox Jew, I went to a college that I had to drop everything when it had to do with religion. My father said, please don't go look at the churches. He was afraid I was going to become a Christian, which I did about 15, 20 years later. And after that, I checked out some other places. Unity was one church I went to. Found it to be very close to Course in Miracles. In fact, we read a lesson a few days ago that one of the most famous Unity ministers, I remember hearing him on a tape 20 years ago at least, quote exactly what was in this book. So it, for me, I'm thrilled that I have found one place that speaks consistently and I'm just going to use the word consistently around one or a lot of, but basically one overall spiritual truth. I accept completely, because I have no problem with channeling, stuff like that. Been there, done it, seen it, heard it. I have no problem knowing that Jesus, in fact, dictated this book to Helen Schuckman. And that's how it started. It started because she asked for it. She said, we've got to find a better way. And he said, well, I know a better way. I mean, I'm saying he said that. That's silly, of course. But I really believe that in the bigger picture of things, that this really is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I'm saying that as a Jew. And the Jewish people still waiting for the Messiah to come. Christians are waiting for him to come back. And I could go on and on about that. But for me, I don't need to look anymore. I have found the object of my search. And that is very meaningful to me. Tom has come up through many different backgrounds, and I think it's great for him. Everybody does it their own way. I just wanted to share a few of those thoughts with you.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Charlotte, I wanted to share something because it resonated with me that you have such a controlling nature. I do as well, very much so. But I just wanted to tell you that it it gets so much better. I mean, the more you do it, it just goes deeper and it's so much better. Each lesson is better and better and better. And when you start over, when you get to, the final lessons and you and better and more joyful
Mm.
and more fun, and your life gets so much easier that
I think we might be losing a little bit of you, Kara. Oh no. I definitely want to hear what you have to say. I bet we'll get her back. I think it sounds like a bandwidth issue, but definitely hang out and we'll definitely come back to you, no problem. Go ahead, Charlotte, if you wanted to say anything.
No, that is so. I'm gonna try to get back to the lessons itself. I checked, and in the lesson, the actual lesson that is triggering me is lesson 22.
Okay.
But I'm gonna try. But my
Hang
attempt
out with
to
us on these. You can also just jump into where we're at. You didn't miss much. They do build on each other, but it's not like you're watching a serial and if you miss one, it won't make any sense. They're really very, very forgiving, and people just assume that you have to get it exactly right.
maybe maybe I'll just skip over that one. But definitely coming to these type of platforms, which I just discovered a couple of weeks ago, it has helped me get back into it. So I trying to attend at least once a day one of these rooms that talk about the book or anything in general related to A Course in Miracles has helped me a lot in hearing everyone talk about their experiences, and as well the way that they are interpreting the book is being helpful. So thank you so much for providing this venue.
Our pleasure. I'm glad you're here. If anybody else out in the audience wants to raise their hand and join us, you're welcome to. We're coming up on about 9 o'clock. My dad and I get started here. We started this room up on July 4th this year. And we start about every morning at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, local for you, wherever that happens to be, but it's about at 2.5 hours before now. So we've been at it for 2.5 hours today, which is getting to be on the long side. I got to get going to work. And if anybody else wants to share, you're welcome to share, and I can hold the space open. But we're probably going to have to, well, there will be another room in the same A Course in Miracles club in about 30 minutes. Their 10 o'clock one kicks in. Actually, I guess 10 o'clock would be an hour from now. So an hour from now it'll start. And we'll probably, I can leave this open for the next hour or so. And as I start my work, kind of stay here. But I wanted to open the floor back up. And I'll just remind us our lesson for today, 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. We did one of our meditations this morning, and today where the course says let's try and do 4 of them. And so I probably would lead us in another one. If we hang out here all the way to just before 10, I could lead us in one more meditation, but try and space some out and keep this idea in your mind. God's voice speaks to you throughout the day. And the replays are on at the Facebook group. That link is up above. I am sending this out to YouTube, and I've got a channel open on Twitch for this, even though nobody goes to any of those things. I figure it doesn't hurt to put it out there and let it be there if anybody else finds their way to us through that channel. So that's it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here either way.
Thank you. Have a good
Tomorrow,
day.
number 50. Yes, tomorrow.
Thank you. Hi, Afnan.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Oh, Janine, thank you for involving us at such a tender and loving point in your day. I appreciate that. We get intimate here, don't we, people?
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm going to move on and do some work. And it's kind of hard to stay away from Clubhouse. There's so many topics, but some of us have to work. And it's great to see all of you. Thank you. Hope to see you again tomorrow and soon after. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to shut it all down.